POTV Go app එක දැන්ම දාගන්න. POTV Go SLT POTV TV බලන හොඳම විදිහ.
Tonight, gradual improvement. No island-wide curfew. The northwestern province and Gampaha are the exceptions. Coming soon. Regulations on madrasas imminent.
During the next 2 weeks, that Madrasa Act will come, and we have given the armed forces of this country a complete free hand.
Unique identity. The president heralds that laws cannot suppress cultures and civilizations. For greater good, Chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority steps down.
So it's a conscious decision I took, looking at...
All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Wednesday, the 15th of May 2019.
අයඩෙක්ස් ඇතුළත ඉදිමීම සමනය කරන අතර විනාඩි 5කින් ක්‍රියා කිරීම ආරම්භයි. අයඩෙක්ස් දිවියට නව දිරයක්. අයඩෙක්ස් වෙතින් එසේ කැක්කුමට විශේෂඥා අයඩෙක්ස් හෙඩ් ෆාස්ට් ඉක්මන් සහනය අදම අත්විඳින්න.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammika Kanayaka. Now let's go straight to the prevailing security situation in the country. The island-wide police curfew, which was in effect overnight, came to an end at 4 this morning. But it was reimposed in the northwestern province as well as the Gampaha police division from 7 this evening and will last until 4 tomorrow morning. In the meantime, the suspect who purchased the van, which was subjected to a controlled explosion near the St. Anthony's Shrine in Kochikade, is in police custody. A total of 85 suspects are currently in remand custody for interrogations over Easter Sunday attacks. Meanwhile, another 78 are also remanded over recent incidents of violence in Kurunagala, Kuliyapitiya, Nikavaratiya and Chelau.
Sri Lanka Navy has deployed close to 2,000 troops to assist police in order to ensure law and order in the country. Disruption of peace and unruly behavior would lead to hinder existing work carried out by the military and police to counter terrorist activities. The public unrest and violence directed at fellow Sri Lankan will only help the terrorists to strengthen their ideology and help them gather support. Troops on ground have been ordered to use minimum force to neutralize anyone engaged in uncontrollable or unlawful acts. The law will be strongly enforced against any violence.
කොච්චිකඩේ දේවස්ථානයට පැමිණි මරාගෙන මැරෙන බෝම්බකරු පැමිණි.
We were able to arrest an accomplice of a suicide bomber in connection with the attack at the St. Anthony's Shrine. He was involved in the purchase and seat modifications of the van used by the bomber to arrive at the location. He is identified as Mohammed Adam Lebbe, a resident of Nawakatankudi. He is currently being questioned in CID custody. Further investigations have now identified 17 safe houses used by the terror group in areas including Katuwapitiya in Negombo, Sarikkamulla in Panadura, St. Anthony's Road in Colombo 3 and Templars Road in Mount Lavinia. In addition, the CID has also identified 7 facilities used by the terror group for training purposes. The grace period given to inform the police of unregistered explosives is extended until 6 a.m. on the 20th of May. After the 20th, we will conduct island-wide search operations to take illegal explosives into custody.
පුපුරණ ද්‍රව්‍ය අත්අඩංගුවට ගැනීම සඳහා
Meanwhile, the Terrorism Investigation Division has been brought under the purview of the Criminal Investigation Department due to service requirements. The TID was previously under the direct supervision of the Inspector General of Police. The security has been ensured and peace is maintained in Minuangoda and Kuliyapitiya areas in which tense situations erupted recently. Following these incidents, officials beefed up security across the island.
කුරුණෑගල කුලියාපිටිය
78 suspects are remanded after being produced before court in connection with acts of violence in police divisions of Kurunagala, Kuliyapitiya, Nikavaratiya and Chelau. Further investigations meanwhile are underway to arrest the rest of the suspects. They're being identified through video footage obtained by the police. We have also decided to inform the relevant employers of the suspects of their involvement in acts of violence. We will also inform these employers to take necessary disciplinary action against their employees arrested over these charges.
මේ අවස්ථාවේදී සඳහන් කරන්න අවශ්‍යයි.
In the meantime, a video circulated on social media platforms showing Deputy Leader of Pivithuru Helaurume, Madhumadava Aravinda, walking amid the tense situation in Minuwangoda. As a result, he was summoned by the Minuwangoda police to record a statement. He went into the police station amid agitation of a group of residents in the area. However, Madhumadava Aravinda left the police station 3 hours later, claiming that the OIC did not grant him an audience due to his busy schedule. Meanwhile, Acting Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardene engaged in an observational tour in Minuwangoda where property damages were caused recently. This is an unfortunate situation because some have taken the law into their own hands. Not just Muslim businesses, but also Sinhalese businesses were damaged. Our security forces won't be able to continue their work against terrorism when such incidents occur. Such action would only realise the goals of these extremists. It was the Muslims who gave necessary information to security forces during search operations across the country over the last few weeks. The Vesak Poya Day is dawning. We are ready to provide all security measures for temples. We're currently investigating whether what happened the day before was politically motivated. In the meantime, Governor of the Western Province Asad Sali also engaged in an observational tour in the area. Minuwangoda is a city where Sinhalese and Muslims live together in peace. Such incidents never happened before. Who are those 200 people who came by motorcycles and three-wheelers? Who brought these buses filled with people? Why can't they look into these? Meanwhile, Magistrate Sirimevan Mahindran Raja ordered 31 suspects arrested in connection with the recent incidents of violence in Nathandia to be remanded for 14 days. Relatives and friends of these suspects were seen behaving in an aggressive manner at the court premises. Police, army and riot police had to intervene to control the situation. 12 of the arrested persons following acts of violence in Nikavaratia were remanded until the 24th of this month after being produced before the Nikavaratia Magistrates Court. AdaDerana reporter on the ground was harassed at the court premises by a group of relatives of these suspects. Meanwhile, 35 suspects who were arrested in connection with incidents in Minuwangoda were produced before the Minuwangoda Magistrates Court today. 32 of them were remanded until the 22nd of May, while the remaining 3 were remanded until the 29th. Their relatives also behaved aggressively at the court premises following the order. In the meantime, leader of the organisation Mahason Balakaya, Amit Veerasinghe, who was arrested in connection with recent incidents of violence in several areas, was remanded until the 28th of May after being produced before the Colombo Magistrates Court. The police informed court that the suspect expressed views and released videos on social media platforms in an attempt to hinder peaceful coexistence of ethnic and religious communities of the country. Police requested the court to remand Veerasinghe as further investigations into the matter are being conducted. Meanwhile, Director Operations of the Anti-Corruption Force, Namal Kumara, who was arrested in Varakapola yesterday, was taken into the custody of the Criminal Investigation Department for further questioning. Now, international media report that Sri Lankan police arrested a 24-year-old suspect who is an employee of Virtusak Corporation in Colombo in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks. They say that the suspect was the link between National Tawhid Jamaat and Jamaat-e-Millat Ibrahim. The reports quote Indian investigators as saying that they had been monitoring the suspect since 2016 and named him in 2 separate charge sheets filed in court over links to the so-called Islamic State. International media report that Sri Lankan police arrested 24-year-old Adil Amiz, an employee of Virtusak Corporation in Colombo, in connection with the Easter Sunday attacks. According to the reports, he was arrested 4 days after the attacks on the 25th of April in Dehiwala. The suspect's place of employment, Virtusak Corporation, was also searched following the arrest. It is reported that Adil, who worked for Virtusak since 2013, had connections with the so-called terror group Islamic State. Police media spokesperson SP Ruwan Gunasekara has told Reuters that the suspect of the Information Technology Service Company was arrested as part of the ongoing investigations. A spokeswoman of the company in the meantime has confirmed the arrest but has not disclosed the reason. In the meantime, Reuters report that India's National Investigation Agency is providing assistance to Sri Lankan authorities. The media outlet says that Adil describes himself on his LinkedIn profile as a senior engineer, programmer as well as a web designer with a master's degree degree in computer science and a bachelor's in political science from UK universities. His father, M. Amiz, who lives in Alutgama, however, has denied that Adil was involved with the plotters, saying the allegations are lies. Reuters claims to have reviewed one such charge sheet and says the suspect showed up in Facebook, WhatsApp and Telegram chats with two suspects who are on trial for plotting an attack on a synagogue in Ahmedabad. Adil has also been named in another charge sheet filed in court by the National Investigation Agency of India for providing propaganda and online material to 3 Indians arrested in early 2016 for promoting ISIS. Reuters also quotes 2 sources in Sri Lanka Police Criminal Investigations Department and 2 military officials. They have told the media outlet that Adil was the link between National Tawhid Jamaat and Jamaat-e Millat Ibrahim. According to the reports, these extremist groups have used the dark web and WhatsApp to communicate. Court documents, which Reuters claim to have reviewed, allegedly show that online conversations between Adil and the 2 Indians began in the summer of 2016 and lasted until the arrest of the 2 Indians in late 2017. It further says that the documents describe how Adil AX, as he called himself online, asked the Indians if they had heard about the atrocities being committed against Muslims in Sri Lanka by the majority Buddhist community. According to Reuters, Sri Lankan investigators say Adil, operating largely from his home, was a key part of the Easter bombings plot and helped communications and training. They also report that according to another source, about a week before the Easter bombings, Adil met Jamil, Zahran, the extremist preacher, and Inshaf Ibrahim and Ilham Ibrahim, the 2 brothers from a family engaged in the spice trade in Colombo. Quoting Sri Lanka's CID, it goes on to say Adil, Zahran and the Ibrahim brothers had leased land in Wanatavillua and set up a training camp. Police raided the location in January this year and discovered a large amount of explosives, but did not know at the time who had leased it. They highlight that when police raided Adil's home 4 days after the bombings, all his computer files were found to have been deleted. At the heels of 2 United Nations special advisors calling on the Sri Lankan government to bring those responsible for the recent communal violence to book, UN in Sri Lanka too voiced their concerns over them. Issuing a statement, it urged the government and the security forces to ensure that the situation does not escalate. The United Nations in Sri Lanka commenced the unequivocal condemnation expressed by political, religious and other community leaders towards the hate-mongering and violence carried out by a few, while cautioning that the country remains at a critical juncture where a unified rejection of hate is of paramount importance for sustaining peace. It added that responsibility also lies with each citizen to ensure that they do not spread misinformation that would lead to insecurity or cause violence. The statement stressed that hateful words will cause greater disunity and fuel existing tensions and fears. UN in Sri Lanka also called on the security establishment to ensure that interventions under the state of emergency are applied in a proportionate and non-discriminatory manner that will respect the rights of all communities and individuals while ensuring their security. It also highlights trust building among communities as imperative and says it requires inclusive and unified approach from politicians, the security forces and community leaders. President Maithripala Sirisena calls for a wider international program to safeguard cultures and civilizations that are unique to each country. The head of state addressed the International Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations today in China, where he moved to say that cultural identities cannot be suppressed by any rules or regulations. The inaugural session of the International Conference on Dialogue of Asian Civilizations was held in Beijing this morning under the patronage of Chinese President Xi Jinping, with the participation of President Maithripala Sirisena as a special invitee. Over 2,000 delegates and leaders of 47 countries attended the summit, and it will be held until the 22nd of this month. Sinhala, Tamil, Muslim, Malay and Burgher. All these communities live in our country. Meanwhile, religions such as Buddhism, Hindu, Islam and Christianity are also practiced as religious philosophies in my country. I believe that we all need to join hands together when some unseen forces challenge our cultures and civilizations. The culture and the civilization of a country cannot be suppressed by any law, any constitution or any international ruling. Therefore, I see the necessity for a wide international program to safeguard the unique civilizations and cultural values of our countries, respecting the identities and the nationalities of others. Leaders from several other countries also addressed the inaugural session this morning.
Many countries today have populations which are ethnically and religiously diverse, and face the common challenge of uniting their populations.
Now, Minister of Plantation Industries, Navin Disanaga, says that an act will be introduced on Islamic madrasa within the next 2 weeks. These Islamic institutions came into focus recently following the Easter Sunday attacks with allegations of propagating extremism. The minister made the claim at a media briefing held at Temple Trees today.
So we can understand the pain and the sentiment. But the problem is that both the President and the Prime Minister has acknowledged that there were faults in the system. Because the government moved very quickly, I can responsibly say that that particular network of Saran has been broken up. So the security forces have been strengthened, the breaches have been secured. Our leader, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, has also told the police that under no circumstances can any politician interfere. I repeat that any politician cannot interfere in these investigations, and if anybody from our party is involved in this, to take them into custody. We are introducing a Madrasa Act very soon. It will come, I think, during the next 2 weeks, that Madrasa Act will come. And we have given the armed forces of this country a complete free hand. I ensure a complete free hand to tackle this security situation. Please respect the three forces. Don't respect us. You don't have to respect us. Already the judgment has been made on politicians. So let us wait for the elections and see how we are going to come out of this situation. The President and the Prime Minister, I can assure you, are working in tandem, working in unity to give the maximum security that the people of this country deserve. So why is it that after 3 weeks we have sporadic, isolated incidents of communal violence coming in the country? Why is it? I'll tell you why. It is because certain people wanted the whole system to collapse with these explosions. And we will come out with all the proof. But I have to tell you, under this present IGP, we are fully confident that the action will happen. As you know, he will do the necessary action to curtail this situation. And of course, the commander of the army, who we have the highest respects for. Yeah. But certainly, this is an eye-opener for us as a country. And that is why we are bringing this Madrasa Act, so that the government has to be alive.
Now, Acting Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardene says nearly 97% of members of the terror organisation which was responsible for the Easter attacks are now in custody, while investigations are well on track to round up the remaining few. Ruwan Wijewardene, who is now in charge of the Ministry of Defence in the absence of President Maithripala Sirisena, made these remarks today after meeting with the chief prelates in Kandy to brief them on the present situation of the country. Speaker Karu Jayasuriya, Acting Minister of Defence Ruwan Wijewardene and State Minister of Finance Iran Vikramaratne called on the chief prelates in Kandy today. They initially visited the Askiriya temple and called on Chief Prelate Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Gnanaratana Thera. Later, they called on Chief Prelate of the Malwata chapter Most Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Sumangala Thera and briefed the Thera on the current situation in the country. They later spoke to media.
In
some areas, mosques were damaged. The image of the country was destroyed once more before the international community. We see an invisible hand behind the violence of the day before yesterday. We also see an invisible hand behind attempts to prevent Vesak festival from being held. I also heard that statement by the minister, but he said that it is his personal opinion. More than 95 to 97% of members of this terror organisation are arrested. There are a few more to arrest. We have launched investigations to arrest them. Police are probing to ascertain whether they have connections with the recent incidents. That's why they were taken into custody. I think that the IGP will make a statement on it. Later, the team visited the Hurekadwa Sri Vidyasagara temple, where they called on the chief prelate of Ramanya sect, Most Venerable Napane Pemasiri Thera. Meanwhile, the joint opposition charges the controversial statement made by Minister of Finance Mangala Samaravira is merely an attempt to divert the attention of the public. Addressing a media briefing in Colombo today, MP Vimal Veeravansa alleged that the minister's remarks are a part of a grand scheme which opens up an avenue for the international community to infringe on Sri Lankan affairs from a different angle. The government wanted to divert the attention of the people and distract them. That's why Minister Mangala Samaravira made some controversial statements on Sinhala Buddhists. And the next day, they sent outsiders to incite violence in several areas. Minister Rishad himself says police looked on when violence unfolded, but they did nothing to stop it. In the meantime, the United Nations issued an announcement saying that Sri Lanka's majority Sinhala Buddhists and minorities, such as Christians and Muslims, don't have security. Then the UN has to look at the prevailing situation in Sri Lanka under the responsibility to protect. We have more local news coming up on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is AdaDerana 24.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the joint opposition is confident that all of its members will sign the no-confidence motion against Minister Rishad Badiuddin, which was recently proposed by parliamentarian Athuraliya Ratanathera. The decision was taken following a meeting with opposition leader Mahinda Rajapaksa today. Many parliamentarians said they too want to sign this no-confidence motion after few MPs signed it. We will get all their signatures today. Once all 60 of them have signed, we hope to hand it over to the Speaker. 2 UN special advisors accused that religious minorities are assaulted in Sri Lanka. This is an attempt to implement the conspiracy to bring UN peacekeeping soldiers to the country.
රිෂාඩ් බදුරුද්දීන් අමාත්‍යවරයාට විරුද්ධව විශ්වාසභංග යෝජනාවක් ගේන්න හදනවා. ඔබතුමාලා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ විදිහට සහයෝගය ලබා දෙනවද?
We discussed it and the set of proposals will be sent to us. The SLFP will then discuss the matter and arrive at a common stance. We made the proposal on this no-confidence motion, and now as the leader of the joint opposition, Mahinda Rajapaksa will lead this motion. We expect the SLFP and some of the UNP members to join with us to pass the motion.
ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයත් මේකට එකතු වෙලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
We must pass this motion of no confidence if we are presenting it. There should be a plan. Otherwise, as proven during the last 3 occasions, the minister in question will simply walk away. Meanwhile, the employees collective of Satosa came forward to report on alleged suspicious activities taking place within the premises of the Lanka Satosa head office in Colombo. Convening a media briefing, representatives of the collective urged the government to initiate immediate investigations into the matter in order to ensure security at their workplace. There is a major security concern regarding the 10th floor of the Sri Lanka Satosa head office. The 9th floor of the building was arbitrarily given to an organisation called UNIDO without an agreement. Doors to this office are always locked. Visitors are only allowed to enter by ringing the doorbell or following a phone call from outside. Once they're inside, doors are kept locked. The police conducted a search operation in this office. At the time, an individual was inside the minister's media unit located downstairs. The door to the media unit was locked from the outside at the time. He never responded when we or the police called him out. We have major doubts as to how can he stay inside when the doors were locked from outside. He later said that he was locked inside by people working there. We request the government to provide us with military security. Chairman of Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, Kishu Gomez, stepped down from his position today while retaining the chairmanship of the Tourism Promotion Agency. Gomez, who headed both the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau and Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority, said he took the decision to resign from the Tourism Development Agency in order to focus on rebuilding Sri Lanka's tourism brand that suffered a blow owing to the Easter attacks.
The attack that took place on the 21st, with the sharp decline we have seen in the tourism industry, the bigger issue is in the external world. So that comes under the Promotions Bureau. We need to carry out a lot of activities, strategy and strategy execution in order to try and change the perception and to try and rebuild the brand. So that demands a lot of foreign traveling, spending time with missions and doing various PR campaigns in different countries. So unless we do that, that fast enough, the economy is going to take a beating. So my decision to step down from SLTDA is to be able to devote enough time to be able to correct the battered perception, so that we'll be able to try and bounce back sooner than later. So it's a conscious decision I took.
Now, Sri Lankan shares fell for the 10th straight session today and closed at their lowest in nearly 7 years, with the all-share price index ending 0.45% weaker at 5,199.98. Turnover was 388.6 million rupees, less than this year's daily average. Foreign investors sold a net 165.4 million rupees worth of shares. We now heard Dimantha Matthew from First Capital Holdings on how the market performed today.
Bond market recovered after yesterday's correction following the positivity from the bill auction, where the 1 year was recorded the lowest figure for the year of 9.18%. It is actually an 8-month low. With it, we saw some buying interest in the market, especially on the short tenor maturities. The struggle in the stock market, of course, continued with weak results that are released and the low investor confidence levels that is prevailing in the market.
Now, to bring you a currency update, the rupee closed slightly firmer against the US dollar, with the currency gaining 0.3% to close at 176 rupees and 20 to 40 cents against the dollar. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other major currencies around the globe. More news coming up on the other side of this break. Stay tuned.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel. This is AdaDerana 24.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, Facebook has announced curbs on its streaming feature ahead of an online extremism summit in Paris called after the Christchurch mosque attacks. The giant tech company says that there would be a one-strike policy banning those who violate new Facebook Live rules. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern called the measure a good first step. In March, the gunman live-streamed the attack in New Zealand, where 51 people died. Ardern will chair the summit with French President Emmanuel Macron. It aims to coordinate international efforts to stop social media being used to organize and promote terrorism.
Twitter. Now in the search bar you can search for people or pages, things like rolling. If you click on that.
Moving on to US-Russian relations, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he would like to fully restore relations with the United States and believes that his US counterpart Donald Trump wants to do the same. Putin told US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo yesterday he came to that conclusion after a phone call with Trump a few days ago. Speaking ahead of a meeting with Pompeo, the Russian president also said that his country had not interfered in US elections. Earlier, Pompeo met Russian foreign minister and there were some strong words spoken from both sides, especially on potential Russian meddling in the next US presidential poll.
Made clear to Foreign Minister Lavrov, as we've made clear for the past months, that interference in American elections is unacceptable. If the Russians were to engage in that in 2020, it would put our relationship in an even worse place than it has been, and encourage them not to do that, that we would not tolerate that.
It is understood that such insinuations against Russia of interference in the US election are completely fake, and I hope that after the recently published report by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the dust settles across the ocean. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.